Welcome back to Energyscapes, Ocean and Space. One of my latest reads that I highly recommend to people interested in the whole history around the phenomena, going back to the after World War II, 50s, 60s, into the 70s, is this one, the Hynek UFO report. So that's an authoritative account of Project Blue Book and its cover-up. It's by Alan Hynek, right? So the original was released in 1977, but this is a revised edition that came out in 2020, so not too long ago. And of course it covers 12,000 sightings and 140,000 pages of Project Blue Book, and distills it into a coherent explanation of what was going on. Of course, by the late 1960s, Hynek had parted ways with the US Air Force. He used to be a UFO basher and denier when it came to public awareness or creating public awareness of what's been going on around us for many, many decades. So he parted ways with them. And so the book considers, in it he summarises and considers the possibility of extraterrestrial life and the role of the US in hiding the truth from the public for many decades. He goes into, so his background was, so he was an astronomer and a professor, and he would give advice, or he gave advice to the US Air Force on unidentified flying objects for a number of years through a number of different projects. And those three projects, some of you will be very familiar with. So the first one was Project Sign in 1947 to 1949, and then there was Project Grudge after that from 1949 to 1952, and then finally Project Blue Book came along from 1952 to 1969, and then he went independent after that. And if you actually read a book by Richard Dolan, UFOs in a National Security State, now he looks at the cover-up from 1941 to 1973. So he talks about those three projects in quite considerable detail, and also the Condon report and how farcical that was in making sure that what was really going on wasn't disclosed to the public. So that's an interesting read as well. So everyone should have a good read of this book. It's been updated and revised. It's the latest edition. And when Hynek went independent, he went on to develop a close encounter classification system, which is covered in this as well. Now this was done a fair while ago. I just want to point out that the physics and classification of UFOs has been around for many, many decades. So what you see going on now is built on a huge amount of history. I'll go into some of these papers in another talk, but for example, if I go to the RAND Corporation back in 1968, and by George Kuchar, an analyst for RAND, UFOs, What to Do. Now he comes up in here with a classification system and method of filling out and writing UFO reports. Now that was back in 1968 under the RAND Corporation, so I'll talk about more about that later. So that links to Hynek's classification system too. Even more recently, I pulled this off ResearchGate, is the physics of UFOs by Juco Rautio of the Nokia Research Center. Now he's got a lot of photographic plates in here and pulled together quite a number of observational criteria and tried to group them into some sort of categorization of all the different types of observations or recorded observations on various aerial phenomena. And finally, so I'll talk about that later too, finally I pulled this one down, physical traces associated with UFO sightings, and that's back in July 1975 from the Center for UFO Studies. And of course he looks through and tries to quantify using statistical methods or descriptive statistics what was going on with classification and object categorization too. So a lot of this has been around. This has been around for decades, and all the hype at the moment, the public, might perceive that this is all new and everyone's excited and that, but it's just simply not the case. There's an absolutely massive history behind this, going back to prior to, during and after World War II and onwards, and pointed out by a number of authors, and the public just isn't aware of it because I wouldn't even say it's been hidden from the public. It's just such a huge area of science to understand and learn about, that any misdirection and manipulation is very easy, especially if the public is uneducated in the area of science, history, ancient history, the arts and literature, and things like chemistry, physics, earth science, geology. It encompasses everything: cultural norms, perception, reality, quantum mechanics, quantum physics. So it's very easy for the public to just say it's in the too hard basket. And also this perception, the mind, the human perception, your eyes only see the visible spectrum and convince yourself that that's all there is, that's the only reality there is. So that tells your brain that, and then that's reflected back at you. So when they see or observe something or hear something that doesn't compute or align with their perception of reality, they can't see it. They just can't process it. Of course, I think that is starting to change and gather momentum as all this comes out, and that what you can't see is what really matters. So we'll see what happens in the near future. Anyway, get on the comments, have a read of this book, and let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon.